to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard De La Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
Oh God, it is Monday, September 30th, 2024. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. This week, hopefully within the next few days, I will have a short review of Jason Schreier's upcoming book, Play Nice, The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard. It's under like a soft embargo right now. I've seen people.
Yeah, there's some excerpts coming out.
Yeah, there's some excerpts. He's done some AMAs. He's done some podcasts. I've been trying to schedule a podcast with him.
Oh, wow.
An interview with him. So we'll follow us on Patreon and I'll update you as to whether or not we're able to set that. But I've been trying to get an interview with Jason Schreier for 5 years now. He's big time though. He's big time. You can't just get gaming's Adrian Wojnarowski, off the.
You can't rush perfection.
Yeah, but he's big time. But so trying to get that organized, but hopefully in the next few days. So it's under embargo. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say whether or not I enjoyed it or not, but I'll say this. I would read it again. I don't know if that means anything to you guys.
It's juicy. Is it juicy?
I couldn't stop reading it. That's just a fact.
All right.
I just couldn't stop. Not to say it's good or
A
bad.
real page turn.
I just couldn't stop reading it. So there.
Front to back.
Backwards and forwards.
Yes. So
Even the footnotes.
I did. There are plenty of footnotes actually. The footnotes actually. I can't tell you if it's good or bad, Richard. Damn it. I can't. It's under embargo.
All right. Sorry.
Damn. Stop asking me questions. No. A few days, and I'll get a review out. And I think next week it releases on the 8th. I think, and I don't think what next Monday is October 7th. Yeah. Okay. So. Next week, I'll probably talk a little bit more about it. But for now, Connor, you said you're not playing any games, really?
Not really.
Is there anything you'd like to discuss?
Not one that I can talk about.
Oh, okay. That's right. Connor's big time, too.
So. Oh, nice. Hell
and
yeah.
Apparently Richard, star cornerback, college football, you told me?
No.
All-American Heisman winner.
Never played, only trained.
Okay.
I said, what's this all about? And I was like, I'm bored. Moved on to
the too low stakes.
There wasn't enough Castlevania.
Yeah, it wasn't enough Castlevania.
You're like, where are all the whips and bats?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that
Where's the
me.
wall chicken?
That was before the door was open.
Before the door was open?
The door, the interest of Castlevania was like opened.
Oh, wow, that was a
before
long time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, Richard, you've been playing games, right?
Yeah.
And fighting off allergies.
I played a really nice small game that actually just came out 2 or 3 days ago. I played the demo about 2 days before it came out. Because I noticed its gameplay style and I said I have to play this, but it's an indie game called Flowstone Saga, and it is a Super Nintendo-esque JRPG where you're kind of like a Sea of Stars. I know you've played that one, Tyler, but yeah, it's like that, and you're kind of running around an island at the start, but your JRPG battles that you get into as monsters are essentially Tetris matches. So,
okay.
So you play Tetris when you're fighting enemies, but your blocks are by and large the same. There are a couple different ones though that they kind of throw into the mix. So if you are used to Tetris, you kind of have to like shift your mind a little bit to kind of get used to those. And as I was going through, they have like a glossary of like all your powers and stuff. There was kind of an index of more types of blocks that you can unlock later that are just wild shapes.
Okay.
Compared to normal like Tetraminos. So I can't wait to get more into the game to try that. However, I've encountered a glitch already, and when I had the demo, I played and beat the demo, and it goes to a black screen. Thank you for playing the demo, whatever. And so I downloaded the game. I still have the demo on my Steam Deck. And I downloaded the full game, and I started up the full game, and I played it, and saw that you can continue your save, and I was like, oh, that's great. So I continued the save, and when I did, at the end of it, it was like, yeah, thanks for playing the demo. Bye. But like I unlocked achievements and I'm going through it, which is very interesting. So I'm either thinking that it's just specifically the save demo and they kind of like merged the data together, and so it thinks I'm still playing the demo. So I might have to start a whole new game.
Oh man,
which won't take too long. I was in like 40 minutes, so it's not like the worst thing ever. Yeah. So I was playing that, and that's really awesome game. So I hope to get more into it. More Astrobot. I'm taking my time with it.
So good.
Yeah, taking my time with it a lot. I'm on the I'm about to fight the chameleon, so that's
those boss fights, fantastic.
Oh yeah, they are. They really are. And so I'm one off. I think one more Nebula. I don't know if that's the final one. I feel like there's going to be like another like gotcha like
I don't remember
sequence because the last one is bird.
So there's the 5 that appear.
Yeah.
There's the secret one where you have to find the, like, some levels have that black hole-ish looking shape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you find the wormhole and you get to the secret region of space that has more levels. I finished Astrobot. I don't think there's much more after that.
Oh, okay.
So I think you're getting pretty close to finishing it. And whatever they added in a recent update, I know they added some more bots and stuff, but I don't know.
I think they will soon.
If they added levels. Is it soon?
It is soon. It's not out quite yet.
Okay, I thought it was out. All right.
But it is funny because as I was playing it, I was thinking more about specifically that Kotaku article that was like, oh yeah, it's not so much a celebration more than it's a graveyard, and as I play through some of it and unlock some of those bots, I kind of scoff at that title because sarcastically I'm like, yeah, people are really asking for a Devil Dice re-release. People are really asking for like an Arc the Lad re-release. I mean, we probably will get one if we're getting like Lunar soon, but not everything in that game needs to be brought back, is what I guess is what I'm getting. And so I think that's where that kind of, I'm okay with it being like what it is. And it's kind of a doorway into people looking for those older games as well. And Sony's been doing an okay job releasing a lot of those classics. Yeah. Like every week. So there's a
Mr. Mosquito.
Yeah, Mr. Mosquito. Yeah.
Which I never played it, but I wanted that when I was a kid. And I have a distinct memory. Connor and our dad would just get us random gaming magazines when we were kids, because he knew we liked video games. So I remember he got me a random gaming magazine. I think it was a PC gaming magazine. I don't know if Mr. Mosquito came out for the PC or not.
I don't recall it.
But I remember it being a PC, but maybe it wasn't. But anyway, I remember I wanted that game just because when I was a kid, I just thought it'd be cool to fly around and hide around a house. Yeah. I don't know why. I was a kid, I thought that'd be fun.
And attack the
and I remember
Japanese family.
It didn't get very good reviews. And I was like, Dad, I want this game. And he was like, oh, well, it didn't get very good reviews. And that's the story. And I was just... But anyway.
That game's like $90 now.
I know. And I've always thought about like emulating it. Obviously buying a copy from you.
Yeah, of course.
Buying an official $90 pristine copy.
I got 2 of them.
And then emulating it and trying it out just because
it's so funny that's like they really
it's a deep cut.
Well, not just that, but like they really harp on like don't emulate it. It's like, well, I can't buy it, and if I did buy it, you're not going to get the money. Like, so what's the point?
You're preaching to the choir, man.
I know.
But I finished Astrobot. Very good. So much fun. So many surprises.
A lot of fun.
It just. You turn a corner, go down a hallway, and you're met with some beautiful level with all kinds of fun ways to traverse. It never stopped surprising me, like different little ways it would change up a level. The design felt really tight. Like it felt like it's tough to communicate this because I'm not sure how to put it, but it felt like the development process must have been really smooth.
Yes.
I don't know why it feels like, maybe it was chaotic. I don't think so, but it's just because there was an idea. Like there's a level where you click a button and the level flips. I don't know if you've played this level yet. The level sort of,
maybe
it's like, like an L will flip and it'll face the other way, the entire block. Right?
Oh, maybe I haven't.
So you have to run through that and hit these switches. And it's the only level with that mechanic, but it's used perfectly. It's a really fun level. Yeah. After it, you're like, that was fun. And then you go on to the next thing. And it's like they thought of an idea, They crafted a level. It's perfect. It's done.
Yeah.
Move on to the next thing.
And some of that is always surprising. I was pretty stunned by the detail in the I just did the like kind of hot air balloon level, and the detail of the textures of the balloon when you're like jumping on it is
and
pretty
the dual
stunning.
sense, so the feeling of the dual sense.
And that's really awesome. The slow motion levels are really fun.
Yeah.
It's a very, very fun game, and I'm extremely satisfied with it. And I'm probably going to platinum it. I'm just going to, do like a couple levels here and there. So that's all.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of those mechanics I would love to see come back in a sequel of some kind. It'd be cool because a lot of the levels have that, you get the one mechanic, and then you use that mechanic throughout the level. It'd be really neat if in a sequel or something you could switch between different, you got the dog, the bird, and the slow motion effect, and you can kind of mix them and
mix and match them. Yeah,
I think that something cool. Like that would be neat. But yeah, I had so much fun with Astrobot. Okay, so I'm playing a couple different things right now.
Bummer.
So I picked up Assassin's Creed Mirage on a whim. I have not played an Assassin's Creed in maybe 10 years. I played Black Flag for like 2 hours and thought it was fun, but at that point I had played so much Assassin's Creed. I played Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, what's the one after Brotherhood? Revelations, Assassin's Creed 3, and then Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out, and there's probably a couple that I forgot about somewhere in there. But anyway, so I had played like a crap ton of Assassin's Creed up to Black Flag, and I was just kind of done. Even though a lot of people, Black Flag is like their favorite Assassin's Creed. For me, I was kind of done. So after that, I took a hiatus from Assassin's Creed, and I've kind of asked you guys about it, and I've heard people say that like Origins was good and stuff. But yeah, Mirage came out last year, and I remember reading the reviews, and the reviews were like, it's fine, it's decent, but it's not going to blow your mind. And I felt kind of, that was appealing to me, that it was kind of a smaller, relatively speaking, Assassin's Creed. So yeah, I picked it up on a whim. I've been playing it. It's not revolutionary. It's not innovative, but it's all just really well made and sort of small and self-contained. It takes place in Baghdad. I forget precisely when. I want to say like 950 or something like that. Yeah. It's before the Crusades, and it happens. It's a prequel to the first Assassin's Creed, and it doesn't take place very long before the first Assassin's Creed. Right. Connor, what year was the first Crusade? I know you know this. Come on.
It was the 1100s.
Okay. So it must be like, maybe it's the 1050 or 950, somewhere in there. But anyway, so that period of history is really cool. I really appreciate Ubisoft's. We'll talk a lot more about Ubisoft later, but I really appreciate Ubisoft's sort of their historical angle with Assassin's Creed. Yeah. I thought I haven't played Origins or Odyssey, but I know I thought the museum mode was cool. Yeah. With Egypt Origins, and Assassin's Creed Origins. In Assassin's Creed Mirage, I don't think there's a museum mode, but they have little things, little orbs you can pick up, and you get a paragraph about some piece of history or some piece of art or science or something. And there are pictures from museums demonstrating like what they're talking about. So as an example, I found a map that is supposedly like the map of how Baghdad was like first laid out, and the plan to like how to build it, which was interesting. There's a little side quest that takes place in an observatory. Ooh, and neat. So it's a little side quest. You go in there, you do whatever. But yeah, in the observatory, you can pick up one of these orbs, and you can read about how, like what people in and around Baghdad and the Middle East, like their contributions to astronomy. And you may already know stars like Altair or Aldebaran, right? Are Arabic names. There was I forget, I don't know if he was from Baghdad, but there was an astronomer, the first recorded astronomer to see Andromeda was, I think, from Baghdad, but I don't think they knew it was another galaxy. They just knew there's a thing this direction out in space.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that, but still, that's kind of a neat little tidbit to know. So there's all sorts of that, and I kind of appreciate that because you can sort of take your time and read about things, and I think it kind of really immerses you in the city.
Yeah.
To have a closer connection to a game world like that, where you go through Velen and The Witcher or Skyrim or whatever, and it's like those places are awesome and they have tons of lore, but they're not real. So when you go through a place that's real and has real history and real connection, and has lots of detail that the development team put in there to sort of bring out and demonstrate, I appreciate that. And I think that's really neat because it's kind of weird to think that entire civilizations happened thousands of years ago that, we're just as we're living our lives right now. There were people that lived in Baghdad at 950 that just went about their day for hundreds of years and, didn't even think about, what could happen now or whatever. So, yeah, having a lot of fun with it. The main character, Basim, is an interesting character. I think the story is fine thus far. It's not like blowing my mind or anything, but it is, hence the name Mirage. And because it's Assassin's Creed, it's a very mysterious story. You, as Basim, you get Basim. You get trained, and you go through the beginning of Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's like his training and his induction into the League of Assassins or whatever. And then what happens is your buddy gets sent to Baghdad to be like the assassin operating there, and he comes back and he's injured, so you're sent to replace him. So it's kind of interesting because you're a rookie assassin it's like you're a rookie detective who's about to stumble on like a big case.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a neat angle for the narrative. It's like you're a rookie assassin who's kind of stumbling into like, what's going on in Baghdad? Who are these people in masks? What do they want? And you kind of have to figure out that mystery as you play, which is pretty cool. And Basim is an optimist, and he's kind and nice, and I think it goes a long way when you're able to give a character just little tiny moments of jokes or personality. That can go a long way in making like certain scenes more interesting and making the story more interesting. I'm sure we can all think of games where it's like the main character is just flat throughout the entire thing. But in Assassin's Creed, they try to give him a little bit of personality, and the personality they give him is he's kind of optimistic and kind of fun, and he kind of jokes. He's not like Ezio, where he's like a suave ladies' man type Joker. He's more of just a funny guy type Joker. He befriends children, and he's really nice to kids and stuff. So he's kind of like just a nice dude. And that makes him interesting to watch on screen. So yeah, I really enjoying it, and I think I'm going to finish it because the Silent Hill 2 remake does not come out for like another week, I think. So
people already have.
I see. Yeah, some people are already playing it. Yeah. And then I also wanted to play through Silent Hill 2 again, so I'm playing through that one.
Okay.
But second time through, I put the combat on easy. I got the chainsaw.
Yeah.
So it's like nowhere near as difficult this time because all the monsters I just chainsaw in half.
But now you can take it all in.
I can.
Yeah.
And man, that game is something else.
Yeah.
And we talked about this, and chime in if you have any thoughts on Silent Hill 2, because I know it's one of it's one of your favorite games, right? No? Oh, never mind. No. For some reason, I thought it was one of your favorites. You look disgusted.
I respect it a lot, but I'm not like.
Okay, well,
crazy
it's definitely one of mine
fan.
now that I finally played it and finished it. But just what they do with lighting, what they do with cinematography, what they do with sound, so much of the game is just quiet and just footsteps, and that quiet, that silence is loud. Mm-hmm. And then when something does happen, when there is some kind of noise, it's just terrifying because there's just noise.
Yeah. And
you're just not used to it.
Static is anxiety inducing,
yeah,
especially when it's slower and it just
and you're making your way to a monster or whatever. That scene where James picks up the flashlight for the first time, it's just the entire scene is just so well orchestrated, because you walk into the room, you see a shadow of the silhouette of a body. So you're like, that's weird. So as you walk toward the silhouette, the camera changes, and now you're looking at James, but you don't see the silhouette anymore. So you have to walk toward the light. And once you walk toward the light, camera changes again, and it's the mannequin there with the light on it. So 3 different camera angles that sort of make it really high, creepy, and then mannequin.
It's a roller coaster.
Yep. And then you pick up the light, and there's a new enemy type as soon as you turn on the flashlight. It's just such a fantastic like little moment. And Silent Hill 2 doesn't have a ton of like jump scary, massively terrifying moments. It punctuates here and there, but mostly I think it's that crawling dread of you hear the static and you're like, okay, there's a monster here somewhere, or you just hear nothing and you're just kind of waiting for the next creepy thing to happen. And the whole time it's just you get so much time to think. And when I playing it through a second time without having to worry as much about health and resource management and stuff like that, it is nice to just sit back and just sort of take in the atmosphere. I have not watched if there is Silent Hill 2 gameplay footage, the remake. I have not watched it. I think a lot of people would echo with me. The worries that I would have about a remake are things like trying to quote unquote modernize the camera angles, specifically during cutscenes. Like what I mean by that is in the first scene where James picks up the radio, he crawls through. It's in like a weird spot under a bridge, and he has to like crawl through wooden planks that are like
the gate is where the gate is.
Yeah, it's like a gate. Like it's a weird area. Like it's kind of tough to describe. It's just strange. And when he crawls in it, you get like these weird floating Dutch angles that the game uses a lot, where the camera's like crooked and kind of floating and weird. So if I could see a world where a development studio today does that same scene, but instead it's the God of War no-cut third-person camera in that moment. Yeah. But you lose something there.
You do.
Because you don't have those like curated, weird, creative decisions to give players different angles and make them paranoid or whatever. All of a sudden it just becomes a third-person game. And that's not to say that God of War's like style of camera is bad or anything like that, but
there was intent.
Yeah, there was intent
with Silent Hill 2,
and it gives it character and it gives it color. So I would be disappointed if something like that happens because it's unnecessary and it doesn't need to happen. It doesn't, just because like other games do, and people have complained about God of War in that way, and I don't necessarily disagree with them. Where a lot of God of War's camera angles are now quote unquote, your AAA cinematic camera angles, as opposed to the ridiculously big camera angles of the original games. So that's one of the things that and I thought about the silence. I was just like, I don't know, that silence to me is important. Yeah. So if you're walking around and you have ambient music or you have some kind of sounds there, I don't know if it's gonna hit as hard.
I would worry about that too, because Bloober is very, very big fans of Akira Yamaoka, the composer, and so I do worry that they will want to make an ambient song to underlie the gameplay. And, and I hope that doesn't happen, but that's something that we'll have to see. But the camera angle thing is really cool, because the first game did it because Resident Evil did it. And the first Silent Hill was like, oh, let's do what Resident Evil does. But somewhere along the line, I don't know if the same director for 2 was the director of 1, but somewhere along the line, someone saw those angles and they were like, no, wait, we can use that. Like, we can actually use it instead of just having it as a technique,
Sure,
But now we can actually use it to say something or to make the player feel something. And I think they did that expertly with number 2, with Silent Hill 2. But I do feel like whenever you talk about Silent Hill 2, it's like that's the only game in the series.
Yeah, right.
Like it's just a game called Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
Like where did the 2 come from? Because that's the only one we talk about ever.
Yeah. I like Silent Hill 4.
Yeah.
I never finished it, but I played through it pretty far. It's similar, and I think it's really good, but I know there's like, I'm not in the Silent Hill fandom, so I know there's big discussions about a bunch of things.
It has the same discussion around it that like Castlevania Lords of Shadow has, and that supposedly when they first showed off both games, they were not those franchises. They were completely separate games. And then they're like, oh, let's change them into these. And so there's a large amount of fans who are like, well, it's not a real Silent Hill game, or it's not a real Castlevania because it wasn't that in the first one. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I will say that Silent Hill 4 is probably the closest thing I can think of to Kojima's Silent Hills, because if you remember, Silent Hill 4 had those first-person sections while you were in the apartment.
Yeah.
And as you played through the game, I forget the main character's name in Silent Hill 4. Doesn't matter. But as you played through the game, it would alternate between your town, which was not Silent Hill. It was supposedly a different place. And you'd find like a hole in the wall. And it's like, crawl on the wall, yes or no. And you'd crawl and you would transport to Silent Hill, and it would go to the standard third-person camera angle. But every time you returned, and as the game progressed, things in the apartment would change. There would be like zones of the apartment that would damage you, so you couldn't walk there. Things would degrade. So just like Silent Hills, where every time you looped, things would change and get like more chaotic and more chaotic. In Silent Hill 4, every time you return to the apartment, things would be moved, walls would get dirtier, things would be creepier or whatever. So I think, we'll have to, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched, I don't know if there's a bunch of gameplay footage of Silent Hill 2 out there. I know I've seen a couple trailers.
Yeah, there was a trailer that was released within the last half month that basically made everyone who is critical of the game so far like do a 180, and now everybody's excited for it. I haven't watched it, but
and I know, and we've had this discussion before, because I know a lot of people just aren't a fan of Bloober. I understand some of that. I understand there's been a lot of critique of the medium and how the medium portrayed mental illness. I can talk about the only Bloober game that I've played is Observer, and Observer had a lot of cool ideas, but it was style over substance, and it had a lot of like, there's a run and hide sequence in it that is just really boring and annoying. That doesn't need to be there. And I don't think it totally like grasped the horror of its own concept, what an observer is, and it kind of just became a horror walking simulator in a sense. But yeah, we'll have to see. I hope it's good. I hope it's amazing. We've talked for a long time. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the end.
Thanks
for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. Yves Guillemot said a bunch of stuff in a Ubisoft investors call. There's a bunch here. We're going to go through it. A lot has happened at Ubisoft over the past 6 hours, over the past couple days. Star Wars Outlaws did not perform well. I think it underperformed Ubisoft's expectations, but I also just think it didn't perform well in general, right?
Yeah, there's just over 1 million copies.
There's like different gauges. There's Square Enix didn't perform, which is 1 in every 4 people on the planet bought it, so that means it's a failure for Square Enix.
Correct.
But no, I'm being tongue in cheek, but I think Ubisoft's expectations and just sort of objectively it didn't perform well. I put in the notes, investors peed their pants and complained. Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed into next year. There was something. Oh yeah, and we'll talk about. There's investors calling for them to either sell to a third party or private equity, which we'll talk about in a second. But other stuff that has gone on at Ubisoft over the past few years that I think is important to remember is they fought off a hostile takeover from Vivendi, and that's your theory at the time,
Yeah.
it was like that's why we got to see so much of what's
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Beyond Good and Evil, which is like somewhere we don't know what's going on.
That thing is dead.
Yeah, but your thought at the time, and I think you said it instantly, was because that was going on. This Beyond Good and Evil 2 was sort of a way to fight off the hostile takeover.
Right.
X Defiant is struggling. The Immortals Phoenix Rising Immortals sequel was canceled. There's Splinter Cell in the works. But we don't know what's going on with that. They had the whole NFT things. Ghost Recon hasn't worked out well for them. They're not sure what to do there. And then there was the whole thing about the harassment and the right-hand man going down and all that stuff, And
Why? What happened?
Executives and PR and HR people resigning. There was that whole thing, too, that happened a few years ago, which is why Yves Schimel should probably not be the CEO anymore. But anyway.
Nope.
In the investors call, I want to read a quote here from Yves Schimel, and then we can discuss this. Quote, in today's challenging market, with gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, delivering solid quality is no longer enough. We must strive for excellence in all aspects of our work. Delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows will enable the biggest entry in the franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure with Naoi and Yasuke, bringing two very different gameplay styles. There is a part 2 here I want to get to in a second, but first, let's... that quote, Ubisoft in general, do we have thoughts? Do we agree with
guys? Gamers don't want solid single-player cowboy games. They want generic multiplayer, like modern shooters. That's why Concord is doing so well.
You are correct, Connor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you have to ask, if gamers are expecting extraordinary experiences, whose fault is that? In a sense that I've talked about it before, specifically advertising. When you make sequels or you make games and you want the next one to sell more than the one before, then you're not out to make an extraordinary experience. You're out to make more money. And so I detest this like statement that we're looking for extraordinary experiences. Sure, having them is very good, but also having solid games are even better. I don't think that Ubisoft has made an extraordinary game since arguably Black Flag or maybe Far Cry 3. Because since those two, almost every single formula of those types of games has been the same. And they haven't changed. Sure, at the baseline, they are good games, but they are not extraordinary because you are not doing anything different with them.
Yeah.
And to talk about Star Wars Outlaws real quick, I don't know what that game's problem is. I mean, from what I understand, it's some of the gameplay and whatnot, but I didn't find the concept interesting. Because I think smugglers are a specific type of character in Star Wars that I think I'd probably place like maybe 6th or 7th in interest of what I would want to play. It's obviously the first is going to be a Jedi or Sith. Second, you're definitely going to want to be like a Mandalorian or a bounty hunter of some sort. And that could be a cool game on its own. I don't know. Then afterwards, you're probably looking at like Wookiees or
just any random Wookiee.
A Wookiee base builder game. Come on. But
an Ewok base builder game.
Yeah. Well, even then, number 3, you could be a stormtrooper. Like, there's lots of other ways we can go, but this one just didn't seem interesting as a concept, but also you can take a look in media, and there's a lot of people who are the community for Star Wars is kind of tired right now, and they probably would want a break from Star Wars media in general. And it's also, what is it, set like right before New Hope again or something?
Oh, I don't remember where. I think it's during the original trilogy somewhere.
Yeah, it's during the original trilogy
because the Empire is still strong, so it's before Return of the Jedi.
You're dealing with Jabba. He's one of the factions, so yeah, so definitely. But anyways,
it is set between Empire and Return.
Yeah. Okay. So
okay.
I I really dislike it when CEOs, and Yves does it here, and he's done it in the past, where they pass off the responsibility. They try and pass off failure as something that has been forced onto them.
Yeah.
We can't do anything about the gamers demanding extraordinary games. As soon as I read that line, I thought to myself, what is Space Marine 2 came out? Every single person on the planet has a copy of Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
And what is the overriding narrative about Space Marine 2? It's an Xbox 360 game from 2009, right? So is an Xbox 360 game from 2009 extraordinary? No. So
it's
why
not.
so why is it selling? Why is it getting good reviews? Why is it so popular? There's a lot of different reasons, but the point I'm making here is this is just flat wrong. And a couple weeks before he said it, a game released that disproves this. So this is just bullshit delivered into the mouths of investors like a mama bird delivers dead worms and vomits them into the mouths of chicks just to shut them up and keep them quiet for a while, because it's just false. It's not true. And it continues this narrative that games have to be super expensive in order to sell, and it's just not true. It's cool that you have multiple protagonists. It's great. Nobody said you had to.
Yeah.
That was it. It's a great idea. It's neat. I'm sure it's expensive, though. Nobody says you have to have dual protagonists. You could make one protagonist, lean into them, and it's fine. There are lots of video games, you guys will find this surprising, that have one protagonist. They don't have multiple protagonists, and people are fine. Silent Hill 2. Example of a one protagonist game. So this idea that that market forces are like winds on an ocean, and Yves Jamot just has to go where the winds are going to take him is bullshit. They're not a sailboat. They're a boat with engines on it. They can go wherever the hell they want to go. So it's just like, it's an excuse. And if you're someone who invests in the industry, and you pay attention to the industry, then you have to know that that's false, because you know about Space Marine 2.
Yep.
So, yeah, and the thing with Star Wars Outlaws is I have not played it either, and one of the reasons I have not played it is actually the same reason I didn't play Assassin's Creed Mirage when it first came out. It got solid reviews. Some people were like, it's fun, but it's a Ubisoft open world game. I think it was John Walker at Kotaku wrote a piece that was really interesting about the dissonance between these incredibly detailed like Star Wars environments and how formulaic the gameplay is. So it's like so much of the work went into the details.
Yeah.
But the gameplay is like 10 years old.
Right.
So there's no like innovation there. So it's like why hasn't anything been done there? Why is money being spent sort of in one direction and not the other? And with me and Star Wars Outlaws, it was just like, okay, so this sounds like an open world Ubisoft game, so I'm just not super interested in buying it new. So I'll wait till I can find it used somewhere. Maybe at a local...
Very soon for very cheap.
Local game shop, because why?
Ubisoft does.
So it's just, I don't know. Now, if Star Wars Outlaws came out and it got really good reviews and it wasn't just a normal Ubisoft open world game, I think it would have generated a lot more interest and it could have sold better. But yeah, so that's my thing with... And it was the same thing with like Frontiers of Pandora, right? Is... game came out and it got the same kind of reviews. It's just a Far Cry game. That was kind of my perception of it. That was the reviews. Sorry, excuse me. Do I want to spend $70 on a Far Cry where your character's skin is blue? Like, and that's going to be the basic distinction there.
Yeah.
Not really. Far Cry 6 was just as formulaic. Far Cry 6 didn't have a whole lot of innovation. So it's just like, you don't have to have gigantic size, extraordinary this and that. you can scale down and still make a really good game. But I think you have to innovate somehow. Now with Space Marine 2, it's not a total one-to-one comparison because there hasn't been a Space Marine 2 coming out every year for the past 10 years.
Right.
So the likeness isn't a one-to-one comparison. But yeah, that's so I've just man, every time this guy opens his mouth, it's just the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, Andrew Wilson, when he opens his mouth, it's evil. When when Phil Spencer opens his mouth, he's trying to think of a way to say, get over us firing people. That's basically what he's doing now. And whenever Yves Guillemot opens his mouth, he's just the guy from Kung Pao who thinks getting his ass kicked in a fight is actually winning. Squeaks or whatever that guy's name is. Like that is who Yves Guillemot is. I had another quote I wanted to run down here, but you guys have any other thoughts?
I wonder what his definition of an extraordinary game is.
Quadruple A.
Quadruple A, yes. One that we sink a lot of money to and see no returns. Yeah, because 3 games I can think of this year, well, besides Space Marine 2, have gotten a lot of critical and commercial success, and 2 of them are, there's Helldivers 2.
Oh yeah,
$40 game, not a very good game, but it's not like extraordinary or anything. It just has this really great gameplay loop. Power World is another one. Of course, that had a particular type of draw, but still, it's an early access game still to this day. And then to a lesser extent, Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade is a very good game, but it's not like extraordinary by any standpoint. It's not a God of War. It's not a Ghost of Tsushima. I don't have an Xbox equivalent. Starfield. So I just wonder what he's aiming for, because if he's not gonna take a step back and help to put in the work or see where their shortcomings are, then he's not going to get that extraordinary game.
Yeah, and I don't think the answer is to make things bigger and blame it on consumers.
It's very telling when you can make a Ghost Recon game, Ghost Recon Wildlands, and everybody kind of goes, hey, this is pretty good. Like, this is not bad. And then you make a game after that, which is the exact same game, and do it worse somehow.
yeah, exactly.
But far worse. Yeah. Not just like, oh, whoops, haha. It was bad when it first came out. So it's very telling.
And I don't know, there's been a lot of mismanagement. Skull and Bones I'm sure it's not one guy's problem, Skull and Bones. It's not like one.
Well, it is. It's Yves Guillemot.
Well, I mean, it's his problem, but I mean, it's not necessarily his fault, the entire saga of Skull and Bones. And that game was in development since like the Reagan administration. So I don't think it's necessarily his fault. But he is but the buck stops with him. He's CEO of the company. Splinter Cell, again, like it tomorrow, if Ubisoft release a teaser trailer for the upcoming Splinter Cell reboot or whatever, it'd be the biggest thing on the internet. It would light the gaming internet on fire. It would be front page news everywhere. People would be going nuts, right? And we just don't have that. And there could be reasons for that. Maybe it's because Ubisoft just doesn't have the resources to lean more heavily into Splinter Cell development, so they just can't announce it. But at the same time, it's like, well, that for some reason we still don't have Splinter Cell, and it's been way too long. So why has this happened? What has put you into this position?
Yeah.
You decided to chase trends and make X Defiant. Stupid from the beginning. What kind of resources did you put into that, and whose decision was that?
Yeah,
because it was a dumbass decision from the very beginning, and now it's helping you dig a hole that you're going to have to dig out of. So maybe if you shifted resources from X Defiant, a game that you probably shouldn't have made in the first place, into games where there's actual demand, like a Splinter Cell game, where you could create actual hype, like a Splinter Cell game. I don't know, maybe that would help you out. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick sip of water.
Sure.
Richard, just say something.
Oh, can I move on? I'll move on.
Nope, I'm good. I took my sip of water.
Okay, shit.
Okay. A day after the call.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
This is part 2 of the saga, of the Ubisoft saga. A day after the call, Reuters reported that an activist investor says it has the support of 10% of shareholders and called on the company to sell to third parties or private equity. I believe that the Jamote family owns 15%.
Oh, wow.
Of the company. So 10%, 15%, that seems relatively pretty close.
Yeah, very close.
If you've got a bunch of people with a smaller percentages of the story. I want to read a quote from the Reuters story by Carl Kontis. It may be Kontis or Kontis, I'm not sure, who is co-founder of Video Game Insights. Quote, "The focus should be much more on existing intellectual property and leveraging the strengths they have. It's a risky time to make more than $100 million bets on new IP or licensed IP that hasn't proven itself as a game yet." So, okay, Space Marine 2. And I want to hear about the first Space Marine. Came out a million years ago, nobody played it. So it's like...
I did, and it was awful.
So it's like, well, yeah, but you're Richard, so I mean, you played everything.
This one looks good, though.
No,
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, this analyst for Reuters bothered me because it's like, okay, is it a risky time? Yeah, it's always a risky time to spend $100 million on a video game. Yeah. It doesn't matter because it's a huge investment and that's a difficult project. So it's always going to be a risk to make a video game. Video games will never be easy to make. But like, it's not about IP. It's not that simple. There's a lot of different moving parts here, but you cannot accordion it into here's 3 reasons why.
Right.
So it's like when we try to blame it on something like that, it bothers me because I just don't think it's true. Last year, what was the best-selling game? Hogwarts Legacy. It's an IP, a licensed IP. So it's all these things that he's saying you can't do. Super successful because there was demand for it, damn it. And it's not that difficult to think of things that people want to play. And I agree with him that you should leverage the intellectual property you have. So
a good example is Prince of Persia, Lost Crown.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that. Yeah.
Earlier this year in January, and great critical success. Not so much. Oh crap! I forgot the other word. Critical and commercial success. But that's due to just little to no, advertising for. Granted, it's not the Prince of Persia people want, quote unquote, but if it's a good game, it's a good game, and you need to put it front and center to hopefully catch the attention of those who are on the fence of being interested, especially since they released it at a budget title price. Because I think it was $49.99.
Okay, yeah, I keep seeing that in stores, and I want to pick it up.
Yeah, it looks good
because it does look fun. Is there anything else we want to say about Ubisoft, Ushimote, all this stuff going on?
No, I do not.
If they sell to private equity, things are just going to get worse.
Probably. Because
private equity does not exist to make products better. They exist. Private equity, if you sell your house to private equity, they are not going to fix it and then flip it and sell it for a profit. They're going to take everything out, take the copper pipes out, take the walls out, take the windows out, take all the wires out. They're going to pawn that off and then sell the house and hopefully pass off the debt to whoever bought the house. Yeah. That's what private equity does. So if Ubisoft sells to private equity, this idea that they're going to do any better is just not true. Because guess what? X-Defiant is what private equity would have done. Trend chasing and doing the thing that Call of Duty is doing. One, because nobody that works for a private equity company plays a video game outside of Call of Duty or sports games. I'm just going to go ahead and say that without knowing for sure because that just seems like it makes sense. But they're not going to save Ubisoft because it is not in the people that run private equity firms do not get into investing into businesses and stuff to make them better or make them stronger or improve them or innovate. They're there to slash, cut throats, make money, jump out of an airplane, saddle the airplane with debt, and then pull their parachute cord as the airplane crashes. That is what private equity is. So that's like saying, I don't know, you're dying from a disease, so just go die by a different disease. That's not the solution. Anyway, all right. Moving on to another
brain dead company.
Another completely brain dead company. EA is all in on AI. This is from last week, but we were off last week, so I was like, yeah, we're gonna talk about this. EA had an investors day, and they talked about a lot of stuff, especially AI. Here's one random quote, and this quote is just, guys, let me tell you. it is amazing the things that human beings have accomplished, right? Landed on the moon.
One would say.
Landed on the moon. A couple, like last year before that, people took a picture of a black hole outside of outside of our galaxy, right?
Yeah.
Like humans did that. This may be one of the worst things humanity has ever created. This sentence here. Quote, and I believe this is Andrew Wilson. We believe AI will greatly expand and transform the entertainment experience for user-generated content. It will accelerate how innovators and creators in entertainment are building and delivering experiences rooted in self-expression, content creation, curation, and instant gratification, a kind of entertainment that today's players and fans deeply crave. Citation needed, Wilson. The cardboard box level. Did you guys see this cardboard box thing? Connor, did you see this thing?
No.
So this was like last week, but their conceptual video was two people typing into an AI chat box.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, make me a level out of cardboard boxes. And so it generates this level that is built out of cardboard boxes.
Okay.
It sounds ridiculous, and it was ridiculous. It was completely conceptual and fake. So later on, they're like, okay, now give us weapons. So there was two players in this level, and they both got weapons. The idea was you could type into an AI box for it to make a game for you. And as soon as you typed in the action, it would make the game.
It would do it.
Obviously, that kind of tech is light years beyond what AI can do right now for a lot of different reasons. Oh, yeah. But it was ridiculous. And I think AI right now, I don't think the real purpose behind AI is to figure out ways to empower players and have their imaginations run wild and blah, blah, blah. I think it's, hey, we could make games cheaper to make by cutting out jobs that we really don't want to pay.
Right.
I don't know if I'm being too cynical there, but I feel like that's the real thing behind AI.
They're proving that with the cardboard level, because it's like if you can tell a machine to create like a luscious green valley instead of having your developers do it.
Yeah.
You're not saving time, you're saving like that manpower and that money.
Yeah, and whether or not, and that's like whether or not it exists, that's what the concept is doing regardless,
yes.
right?
Right.
So I do think it's important to say that AI is a tool and that it's not necessarily wrong to use it, and it's not unethical in all its uses. I'm sure there are different places in game development where generative AI and stuff is helpful. I'm not a game developer. I'm not going to sit here and say you can't use it at all and that it's unethical in every single sense. So I'm not going to say that. But like this future that was shown off at this AI investors club or this EA investors summit, whatever. To me, it just looked like sort of an attempt to show off EA's own idea for what their version of Roblox could look like. You know, so It's like, what if we had AI make everything instead of this annoying thing where people take an engine and then we have to split profits with them? It's like, why not just pay an AI to do it?
Not pay an AI.
Or yeah, why not just have an AI to do it? One important distinction I would like to make here is because people often say AI will never be used because AI sucks, right? You tell AI to make you say AI, ChatGPT, whatever. It doesn't make pictures, but give me a picture of a dog, and this like creepy dog gets returned or whatever, right? So it's like it'll never be used. But the problem is that I think there's a distinction between content that is bad and content that will sell, if that makes sense. So if we remember, Call of Duty got caught with generative AI MTX.
Right.
It was part of a package.
Right.
So that's in there because there's just so much slop on the Call of Duty store that you're just tossing stuff at it. So it's just like, you're going to get away with it. So many people are playing Call of Duty. Does it really matter? There's just so much traffic and stuff going on that it's hard to like litigate and figure that out, right? So I think that's a problem. But also, I think executives don't care if something is bad. So let's say tomorrow EA does invent this thing where you can type into a box, make me a level, and it makes a level. But let's say the level sucks. It doesn't make sense. It's not interesting. It's just a shitty level. But so many people play Call of Duty, and you can tell the AI to make a level. You throw that into a map pack, and then people are just playing the level. It doesn't matter to you that the level sucks because it hasn't hurt your bottom line.
Right.
So to an executive, why do they give a shit about the quality of work that an AI can do when it's less about the quality and more about the quantity, more about getting something out and cutting the cost of making it? So I just think that's important to point out because people often talk, because that's like the end point. I think discussions about AI often end with that. But look how shitty it is. Yeah. But it's like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't hurt a bottom line, an executive's not going to give a shit. So it's just like, you know.
Sitting here thinking about it, I did start thinking about the very first like AI video that we saw like a couple years back of like Will Smith and the spaghetti and how much everybody was like, it's shitty, it'll never go anywhere. And now here we are. Like there are videos now that are very good at being indistinguishable, you know, from real life. So it's definitely going to fool a lot of people who are not in the know or are not, we'll say, trained to figure that out. So, and that line's only going to get blurrier. So for them to create maps like that or skins and stuff like that, it's going to be very easy, and eventually people won't care because the generation growing up, blah, blah, blah. So that's where we are right now. And so this is only going to lead to bad things.
I think that's another important point to make is the generational apathy that I'm not bagging on generations. I don't want to sound like that, but I do think there is something to like the normalization of microtransactions, right?
Right.
I think a lot of the stuff that's happening today is unacceptable. But a lot of people have just grown up with it. So to them, it's just like, this is just how the world is.
That's how it always was.
They can't imagine it any other way. But to me, it's like, well, I was there 10,000 years ago. Right. You know, so it's just like, to me, it's unacceptable because I have the point of reference of 2005 or whatever.
Right.
And so I have that historical context. But I think it's similar with AI. Do we get to a future where AI is so ubiquitous that people today and people our age are like, this sucks. I hate that we've normalized this. But the people that are born today or were born 5 years ago that grew up in a world where AI was deeply embedded in the games they played, to them it's just the world.
Yeah.
So they're just sort of going about it and not really engaged on a discussion about whether or not it should be there in the first place. That's a dystopian future to think about. Connor, I just wanted to check in. Was there anything you wanted to add here?
No.
I was a disappointed no.
Sorry, making him think.
I could go on for a day and a half just bagging on EA, but
sure.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah, we could.
Okay. Last story here. Nintendo has sued Pocketpair, the maker of Power World that we were talking about. Nintendo posted a statement on their website saying the company, along with the Pokemon Company, filed a patent infringement lawsuit in Tokyo District Court. Reading from the statement, this lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Power World, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. Nintendo will continue to take necessary actions against any infringement of its intellectual property rights, including the Nintendo brand itself, to protect the intellectual properties it has worked hard to establish over the years. Pocketpair later released a statement saying they had received the notice of the suit, but that they were unaware of what patents they had violated. I just wanted to say a quick thing. I'm not sure if you guys have thoughts on this, but multiple things can be true at once. Are the Pal World critters, the pals, clearly based on Pokemon? A lot of them definitely seem so.
Yeah.
Should they have maybe taken their designs a little further than they did? Yeah, they probably should have did that. They probably should have done that. Just from a creative standpoint, make something new. You know, you can be inspired, but like push it a little further. Do something a little more different. But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. I still want to play. I haven't played it, but I would still love to play it. Should what Power World did be illegal? I don't think so, because I feel like as close as Power World is, I don't know. I don't see that as something that is a clear like threat to a company. Now, you know, Nintendo's dogmatic and they're going to pretend that it is. Is Nintendo in financial trouble? No. It's just like I think this is real. This is the real Nintendo. Dogmatic, slit your throat, send lawyers your way.
Yeah.
This is who Nintendo is I think as a company. So those are my those things can all be true. It doesn't have to, like, because I've seen people point out like, oh yeah, well Pokemon are based on this thing and they look similar. And to me, it's like that's not the point.
That's inspiration at a certain like there's a Pokemon that's ice cream cone and it's like, okay, well it's just an ice cream cone, like, so
do we have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've read a lot of conjecture since the announcement of this list, and I guess the lawsuits are more having to do with the patents for how a game operates and not,
which is weird,
specifically. Yeah. So, I guess from an article I have, an excerpt from an article I have, a Japanese patent attorney generated a list of 28 possible patents, noting that the following ones are especially relevant: catching or riding combat characters, airborne rideable characters, field characters, Pokemon, and using player characters. So what Nintendo is possibly doing here is, you know how Monolith created the Nemesis system?
I hate that.
Yeah. It's basically, they're pulling that card. Like, oh, you're using the thing that we invented. No. So.
Yeah, which that just doesn't seem, I don't know, that just doesn't seem, that sucks.
But this also from another lawyer, like gaming lawyer, he seems to say that this is something that's most likely only going to affect like Japan and not necessarily the greater gaming area.
Yeah.
Because Power World obviously was shadow dropped for PS5, but not in Japan.
Oh, okay.
So it was shadow dropped everywhere, but not in Japan.
Yeah.
So
that's still wrong. I don't care.
It is still wrong. Yeah.
They're so worried about, flying or riding flying creatures and catching creatures and using them for fighting. I'd like to see them go after World of Warcraft.
Yeah, right. Okay, Richard, do you have one tidbit?
Yeah.
I'm playing.
What
music.
if I told you?
I forgot.
And we were off last week, so we don't have the same groove that we usually have.
There are tids,
False start.
and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits.
Repeat tidbits.
It's like in Mario Kart when you press the gas too early and you spin out.
Yeah.
So, only one tidbit, and it's a personal one. 4 days ago, September 26th, was Castlevania's 38th anniversary.
Hey.
First game came out in 1986 on the Famicom NES. Great game. Great series. And I'm playing the second one. I'm playing Portrait of Ruin right now. I beat Dawn of Sorrow. I forgot that Dracula is not the final boss in that game. And then I'm playing Portrait of Ruin, and I encountered my very first glitch ever in a Castlevania game. You fight Astarte, the Egyptian boss, and in Portrait of Ruin you play as two characters, so you can switch between them like on the fly.
Fun.
It is fun. It's male and female, and Astarte is female, so she throws out like an attack that if it hits the male character, she controls him. So you have to fight against two people now. You're forcefully changed to the female character.
Okay.
So you have to like navigate that. But anyways, I beat her, but her animation, she's supposed to go back into her hieroglyph stone, and then like it crumbles, and then you get that. But she disappeared. She never went back into that. So I was just stuck in the boss room.
Oh, that sucks.
I've never encountered a glitch like that before, ever. So thankfully I saved right outside the room, so I just had to beat her again.
Okay.
But still.
Worst Castlevania game, go.
Haunted Castle for the arcade.
Why is that?
It looks awful. It's very slow. It's very unforgiving. Like
nice.
bosses or enemy attacks pretty much take like half your health.
Okay.
And like you have this. It's awful.
And best one is
Symphony of the Night.
Symphony of the Night.
Okay. I don't mean to say that begrudgingly, just because it's like true. I mean, it's true for the greater like Castlevania fandom. I think that every Castlevania game after it, well, no, not everyone. Aria of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow probably perfected what Symphony of the Night did.
Okay.
Or at least added to it. But Symphony of the Night as an all-around package, best one. One.
Most mediocre Castlevania.
Probably Castlevania 64. Yeah. Yeah, probably. No. Circle of the Moon.
Okay.
On the Game Boy Advance, yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of So your character can't run at the start. You have to gain the ability to run, and that's annoying already.
Okay, yeah.
It's very dark. Well, if you played it on handheld back in the day, it's a very dark game. They didn't... to see like the backgrounds there, you had to like look straight into the light. That's alleviated because you can play it like on an emulator now, so everything's brightened up. But that was rough, and the whole castle is like there's a lot of verticality to it. So like in the other Castlevania games, the castle is sort of like horizontal, and you do have some like clock tower. Of course, you'll go vertical, but it's just like no. And Circle of the Moon is just like fucking you're just jumping, jump. It's awful, terrible.
Okay, cool. I need to play some Castlevania games.
Yeah, every single one is available.
And
on PlayStation, every single one.
Yeah, and I need to figure out how to get them on Steam Deck. That's what I need to do.
The Castlevania collections.
Is every game available?
Every single game except Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood is on Steam.
And isn't there a phone Castlevania that doesn't exist anymore? Wasn't there a phone game you were telling me about?
Yeah, it's still available. You can still get it. It's called Grimoire of Souls.
Okay.
It's only on Apple Arcade though.
Oh, so it is in circulation then?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I was under the impression that it was like a lost game.
No, it's in Apple Arcade. It was available on Android in Canada, and I was able to play it that way. I just downloaded the APK and played it. But when they released it officially, they only released it for Apple Arcade. So
okay. That was Castlevania 356 with Professor Richard De La Cruz.
I can go longer.
We'll deliver the syllabus next week, and your test scores will be posted by the end of the week. Okay.
Is it graded on a curve?
What was that, Connor?
I said, is it graded on a curve?
No, you have to get 100%.
It's graded on a Circle of the Moon.
Patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse, YouTube.com/thegamingdiscourse. Gaming Discourse FM for Richard's radio show.
Oh yeah.
A few weeks ago, I was gonna talk trash and then I forgot about this. A few weeks ago, I'm gonna call you out.
Oh, okay.
You just took a knee and just did a bunch of Castlevania music.
Yeah, because the Castlevania collection released.
That's not what Richard, I want curated pieces of music.
Okay.
It's like if I did one and it's just here's my playlist, the Halo soundtrack.
Alrighty. Well,
okay, yeah. Real
thoughtful. What's Wednesday? No, hold on. What's Wednesday? Is Wednesday the 1st? Or is tomorrow the 1st?
No, it's the 2nd.
Wednesday.
Okay, this entire month, don't listen to it because it's Halloween. You're going to get Castlevania music every week.
Okay. All right.
That's what you get, buddy.
Get some music from Silent Hill too.
I will for sure. Real quick though, I got real petty, and I was like, because I take other users' gameplay videos.
Yeah.
And I always credit them, but I got real petty like last week because I've had 2 comments so far that have either like got mad at me or like questioned me for using their stuff, and I was like, fine, I'm just not gonna tag anyone anymore. But I tagged somebody and they're like, yeah, thanks for asking, and I was like, well, I could just not tag you, like I still credited you. But and then someone else was like, who's tagging me? And I was like, all right. People are fickle.
Okay, I already did the follow us stuff, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. Bye.